The Discovery, Captain Elena Reyes, stood motionless on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen before her. The massive object drifting silently through the void of uncharted space shouldn't exist. It couldn't exist. Yet there it was, a vessel of impossible proportions and unfamiliar design, its hull gleaming with a material that seemed to absorb and reflect starlight simultaneously. "Magnification times 10, she ordered, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. The image zoomed in, revealing intricate patterns etched into the surface of the mysterious ship, symbols that looked almost like writing, yet matched no known language in the galaxy. "How long has it been out here?" asked Commander Takashi, her second in command, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Morris, the ship's chief xenorchaeologist, consulted his readings with wide eyes. Based on the accumulation of space dust and radiation patterns, at least 30,000 years, Captain. Elena felt her breath catch. Humanity had achieved faster than light travel barely 2 centuries ago. Their most advanced ships were crude constructions compared to this ancient vessel. At 30,000 years old, this ship predated all known spacefaring civilizations in the galaxy. "Any life signs?" she asked. Communications Officer Patel shook her head. "Nothing, Captain, but there's definitely power signatures. Whatever it is, it's not completely dead." Elena made her decision. "Prepare a boarding team. Full environmental suits, standard protocols for unknown vessel exploration. I want Dr. Morris, Lieutenant Chen from Engineering, and myself. Commander Takashi, you have the bridge." Their alien allies, a Volari scientist named Zrek and a Taurian security officer named Korva, approached. The Volari's translucent skin pulsed with blue light, indicating curiosity. "Captain Reyes," Zrek's translator rendered his clicks and whistles into English. "As representatives of the Galactic Coalition, we request to join this boarding party. This discovery falls under shared exploration protocols." Elena nodded. "Of course. Suit up and meet us in the shuttle bay in 20 minutes. As they approached the massive vessel in their shuttle, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ship's surface seemed to ripple slightly as they drew near, almost like the skin of some enormous space-dwelling creature responding to their presence. "I've never seen anything like this alloy," Lieutenant Chen murmured, analyzing the readings from their shuttle sensors. It's not registering as any known element." "There," Dr. Morris pointed. "That looks like a docking port." As they maneuvered toward what appeared to be an entry point, the section of hull beside it suddenly illuminated with a soft blue glow, forming a pattern of interlocking geometric shapes. "It's responding to our approach," Zrek observed, his skin flashing with excitement. The airlock cycled open without any input from them, as if inviting them aboard. Inside, emergency lights activated automatically as they stepped into a corridor that curved gently upward. The architecture was both alien and strangely familiar, smooth surfaces with occasional angular protrusions that served no obvious purpose. "The atmosphere is breathable," Chen announced, checking his instruments. "Gravity at 1.1 Earth standard." "Keep suits on until we're certain," Elena ordered. The team moved deeper into the ship, recording everything they encountered. The corridor led them to a vast chamber that appeared to be a control center. Consoles with strange interfaces lined the walls, and at the center was what looked like a command chair, elevated on a platform. "Try to establish communication," Elena instructed Paddle through their comms. "Send standard greeting protocols." As Paddle transmitted the carefully crafted first contact messages from the horizon, the ship remained silent. The Volari scientist stepped forward, emitting a series of complex tones that served as the universal greeting established by the oldest spacefaring races. "Nothing." Korva, the Taurian security officer, attempted next, the deep resonance of his species' language echoing through the chamber. "Still nothing." "Let me try," Dr. Morris said, activating his universal translator to cycle through every known language in their database. The ship remained dormant, its systems humming quietly but unresponsive. Maybe it's not a communications issue, Elena suggested. Perhaps the activation protocols require physical interaction. She approached what appeared to be the main console and hesitantly placed her hand on its surface. To everyone's astonishment, the console illuminated beneath her touch, patterns of light spreading outward like ripples in water. A holographic display sprang to life above the console, projecting what appeared to be a navigational chart of unfamiliar star systems. And then, a voice, melodic and clearly artificial, yet possessing an uncanny warmth, filled the chamber. Human presence detected. Primary protocols activated. Welcome aboard the Lumina. The aliens exchanged glances of surprise. Zrek approached another console and placed his three-fingered hand on its surface. Nothing happened. Korva tried the same with another station. Again, no response. It's only responding to the human, Zrek observed, his skin now pulsing with a reddish hue that indicated concern. Lumina. Elena addressed the ship directly. I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. Can you tell us about yourself and your origins? The holographic display shifted, showing the image of a humanoid figure composed of light. I am Lumina, a Class V autonomous exploration vessel created by the progenitors to seed and monitor developing worlds. My last active crew departed 32,647 standard years ago. I have remained in dormant mode awaiting reconnection with authorized users. And who are these progenitors? Elena asked, feeling a strange tingle along her spine. The progenitors are the first humans, those who achieved interstellar travel during the first expansion era. My databanks contain their complete history and technological developments. A stunned silence fell over the boarding party. Elena felt her knees weaken slightly. That's impossible, Dr. Morris whispered. Human civilization on Earth is only about 10,000 years old. We evolved there. We have the fossil record. Your understanding is incomplete, Lumina responded. Earth was a sanctuary world, established after the Great Catastrophe. The returned ones were meant to develop naturally until they reached sufficient technological advancement to rediscover their heritage. Elena's mind raced with implications. Are you saying that humans existed as an advanced civilization before our known history? Affirmative. The progenitors established colonies across 17 galaxies before the emergence of the void entities. Earth was designated as a preservation sphere, where human genetic material would be preserved in an evolutionary restart protocol. Drek stepped forward, his translator struggling to keep up with his agitated clicks. This is unprecedented. If what this, Lumina, claims is true, it would rewrite our understanding of galactic history. The Coalition records show no evidence of such an advanced human civilization predating all others. Because we erased it, Lumina stated simply. The void entities were drawn to technological signatures. To preserve humanity, all traces of advanced civilization were systematically eliminated. Earth was returned to a pre-technological state, with selected genetic groups preserved to restart human development. Elena felt a weight settle on her shoulders. This discovery would change everything. Humanity's place in the galaxy, their relationships with other species, their very understanding of their own origins. Lumina, why do you respond only to humans? She asked. Biometric security protocols. The progenitors experienced betrayal from trusted allies during the final conflict. All command systems were restricted to human genetic and neural patterns thereafter. The implications weren't lost on anyone in the room. The aliens' expressions shifted from wonder to wariness. Captain, Korva rumbled, the Coalition Council must be informed of this immediately. This technology cannot remain under exclusive human control. I understand your concern, Elena replied carefully, but we need to verify these claims before creating a diplomatic incident. Lumina's holographic form shifted slightly. Captain Rice, I have activated preliminary systems only. Full revival requires command authorization and genetic confirmation. You are the first human to board this vessel in over 30 millennia. By protocol, you have provisional command authority. Me? Alina's composure nearly broke. I'm not. I don't know anything about commanding a ship like this. Knowledge transfer is available, Lumina responded. However, I must warn you that full activation will trigger automated beacons. Those who hunted the progenitors may still exist. Lieutenant Chen had been quietly scanning the ship's visible systems. Captain, he interrupted, his voice tight with controlled excitement. The technology here, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. The power generation alone could revolutionize everything we know about energy physics. Alina looked around at her team, the humans wide-eyed with amazement, the aliens increasingly guarded. This discovery would forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy, and somehow she had become the focal point of whatever came next. Lumina, she said, making a decision. We need to proceed carefully. Can you share information about your basic capabilities without triggering these beacons? Affirmative. Basic systems information can be shared within security parameters. Good. Then let's start there. And Lumina, prepare a comprehensive historical record of these progenitors. I need to understand where we came from before I can decide where we're going. As Lumina began displaying technical specifications that made even Lieutenant Chen gasp in astonishment, Alina caught the aliens exchanging meaningful glances. The galaxy's power structure had just been upended, and the diplomatic fallout would be enormous. What had begun as a routine exploration mission had become the most significant discovery in human history. And Alina Rice, a captain from a species considered newcomers to the galactic stage, now stood at the helm of a vessel that suggested humans were not merely latecomers to the stars, but perhaps the oldest spacefaring race of all. The weight of that responsibility settled over her like a physical presence as Lumina continued its revelations, each more stunning than the last. This was only the beginning. The awakening. 3 days after the discovery of the Lumina, the Horizon's communication array was overwhelmed with incoming transmissions. News of the ancient vessel had spread through the coalition faster than Alina had anticipated, despite her attempts at discretion. Now, representatives from a dozen spacefaring civilizations were demanding access to what they called the shared heritage of the galaxy. Alina stood in Lumina's command center, watching as the holographic representation of the ship's AI displayed historical records that defied everything she thought she knew about human history. Images of vast cities on planets circling distant stars, technological marvels that made their current capabilities seem primitive by comparison, and finally, the devastating war against entities that seemed to exist partly outside normal spacetime. The final protocol was enacted in desperation, Lumina explained, showing the systematic dismantling of human civilization across multiple galaxies. Earth was chosen as the primary reservoir of genetic diversity, with memory suppression and technological regression implemented to hide the remaining human population from detection. And these void entities, they specifically targeted humans? Alina asked. Not initially. The progenitors encountered them during explorations beyond the galactic rim. The entities were drawn to the quantum resonance of our faster-than-light communication network. They fed on the energy patterns of advanced consciousness. Humans, having the most extensive neural tech integration, became their primary prey. Dr. Morris shook his head in disbelief. But our evolutionary record on Earth was preserved deliberately, Lumina interrupted. The Earth restoration team seeded appropriate fossil evidence to support natural development theories. The goal was to allow humanity to redevelop without knowledge of their past, to avoid attracting attention until they were ready to face the truth. Lieutenant Chen, who had been studying Lumina's propulsion systems, looked up. And when would we have been ready according to this plan? Upon independent rediscovery of certain mathematical principles that would allow for secure communication methods resistant to void entity detection. Your species is approaching this threshold, which is why my sensors recognize your vessel's drive signature and allow detection. The Horizon's communications officer Patel's voice came through Alina's comm unit. Captain, we have a situation. 3 coalition diplomatic vessels have just arrived in system and are demanding immediate consultation. The Volari High Chancellor himself is aboard the lead ship. Alina sighed. Tell them I'll shuttle over in 30 minutes. There's more. Paddle continued, her voice tense. Our long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy readings at the edge of the system. It doesn't match any known signature in our database. A cold feeling settled in Alina's stomach. Lumina, could these be the void entities you mentioned? The AI's holographic form flickered momentarily. Analyzing. The pattern corresponds to remnant energy signatures recorded during the final conflicts. Probability assessment. 78.3% correlation with void entity approach vectors. They followed us here, Alina realized. When we found you, somehow they detected it. Probable. My activation, even at minimal levels, creates distinct quantum resonance patterns. If any void monitoring systems remain dormant in this region, they would have detected these signatures. Alina made a quick decision. Paddle. Inform the coalition vessels about the potential threat. Recommend immediate defensive posture. I'm staying aboard Lumina for now. The meeting with the coalition representatives never happened. Within hours, the anomalous energy readings resolved into 5 massive objects moving toward them at impossible speeds. The coalition vessels, already suspicious of human intentions regarding Lumina, interpreted Alina's warning as a deception tactic. They think we're trying to claim Lumina exclusively for humanity by inventing a threat, Commander Takashi reported from the horizon. The Volari Chancellor is particularly vocal, suggesting we manufactured the energy readings. They'll believe soon enough, Alina muttered. Lumina, what defenses do you have against these entities? My primary defensive systems remain inactive without full command authorization. However, even at full capacity, direct confrontation with multiple void entities would be inadvisable. The progenitor strategy relies primarily on evasion and concealment. Well, concealment has failed, Alina replied grimly. Can you bring weapons online? Affirmative, but full command authorization is required. This would necessitate complete genetic integration with the command systems. Alina hesitated. Whatever genetic integration meant, it sounded irrevocable. What exactly does that entail? A nanite infusion that would adapt your neural patterns to interface directly with ship systems. It is permanent and was reserved for command-level progenitors. Before Alina could respond, Paddle's panicked voice came through again. Captain, the approaching objects, they're accelerating. ETA 12 minutes. And they're enormous. Each one is larger than a coalition dreadnought. Alina made her decision. Lumina, initiate command authorization protocol. Understood. Please place your hand on the central console and prepare for nanite integration. As Alina pressed her palm against the smooth surface of the command station, she felt a slight tingling sensation that quickly intensified into a burning that shot up her arm and spread through her entire body. She gasped as information flooded her consciousness. Ship schematics, weapons capabilities, historical records, all downloading directly into her mind. Through watering eyes, she saw Lieutenant Chen staring at her in shock. Captain, your eyes. She couldn't see it herself, but she could feel the change. The nanites had altered something fundamental within her, creating new neural pathways that connected her consciousness directly to luminous systems. Coalition vessels are hailing us, Paddle reported. They're detecting massive energy buildup from the approaching entities. They're finally taking the threat seriously. Open a channel to all ships, Alina ordered, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. As Paddle complied, Alina addressed both her crew and the coalition representatives. This is Captain Reyes. What's approaching us is an ancient enemy that once nearly wiped out an advanced human civilization. We now face the same threat. I've integrated with luminous systems to access defensive capabilities, but we'll need to coordinate our efforts to have any chance of survival. The Volari Chancellor's face appeared on a holographic display, his translucent features tight with suspicion. Convenient timing, Captain. You discover an ancient vessel that responds only to humans, and suddenly an undetectable enemy appears, forcing us to accept human control of this technology. With respect, Chancellor, Elena replied, feeling Lumina's knowledge informing her words. The void entities don't care about our political disputes. They consume advanced consciousness. All of us, humans, Volari, Taurians, every sentient species, are potential food sources to them. Before the Chancellor could respond, one of the approaching objects suddenly accelerated, covering the remaining distance in seconds. It appeared first as a distortion in space itself, then resolved into a shape that defied easy description. A writhing mass of what looked like liquid darkness shot through with veins of purple energy. Defensive measures, Elena commanded, and felt luminous systems respond instantly to her thought. Energy shields enveloped both Lumina and the nearby vessels just as the entity released a pulse of coruscating energy. The coalition ships shuddered under the impact. One of the smaller vessels lost power completely, drifting helplessly as its systems failed. Their attack disrupts organized electrical patterns, Elena explained, the knowledge coming to her through her connection with Lumina. They target neural networks and advanced computing systems first, to disable resistance. Through the shared communications channel, she heard panic and confusion from the coalition crews. Their weapons, plasma torpedoes, particle beams, kinetic projectiles, passed harmlessly through the entity as if it existed partly in another dimension. Standard weapons are ineffective, Elena announced. Lumina has specialized countermeasures, but will need to coordinate. To her surprise, it was Drek, the Volari scientist who had been aboard for the initial discovery, who responded first. What do you need from us, Captain? Elena felt Lumina's tactical systems calculating possibilities. The entities are vulnerable to specific quantum resonance patterns. Lumina can generate these, but we need multiple emission points surrounding the entities. Our ships can take positions, the Taurian commander offered. Tell us what modifications we need to make to our emission arrays. As Elena relayed the necessary technical specifications, she sensed a subtle shift in the coalition representatives' attitudes. Faced with an existential threat, the political concerns about human control of Lumina seemed suddenly trivial. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of coordinated maneuvers. The coalition vessels, following Elena's instructions, positioned themselves in a complex geometric pattern around the void entities. Lumina's systems interfaced with their emission arrays, synchronizing the quantum resonance field. When they activated the field, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The void entities writhed in apparent agony, their amorphous forms contracting and pulsating. Two of the smaller entities retreated immediately, vanishing back into whatever dimension they had emerged from. The largest entity, however, seemed to adapt. It shifted its approach, focusing its attack directly on Lumina. The ancient ship shuddered under the assault, and Elena felt the impact, as if it were attacking her own body. Their primary consciousness is targeting you specifically, Lumina's voice informed her within her mind. It recognizes the progenitor command protocols. Elena gritted her teeth against the pain. Can we intensify the resonance field? Not without risking structural integrity of the coalition vessels. A desperate plan formed in Elena's mind. What if we reverse the resonance pattern? Instead of repelling them, we draw them in, specifically into Lumina's containment sector. The probability of successful containment is 31.7%, Lumina calculated. However, it would require direct neural interfacing to maintain control during the procedure. Meaning? Your consciousness would need to enter the ship's cognitive matrix directly to manipulate the fields. The risk to your individual identity would be significant. Elena barely hesitated. Do it. She was dimly aware of voices protesting. Dr. Morris, Lieutenant Chen, even Commander Takashi from the horizon. But their concerns seemed distant compared to the immediate threat. As she settled into the command chair at the center of Lumina's bridge, neural interfaces extended to connect with the nanites now flowing through her bloodstream. The world around her dissolved, and Elena found herself existing within luminous systems, perceiving data directly as patterns of light and energy. She could sense the void entities as hungry voids in the fabric of reality, consuming information and energy indiscriminately. With a thought, she altered Lumina's resonance field, creating what appeared to the entities as an irresistible source of neural energy, a banquet too tempting to ignore. The largest entities surged forward, penetrating Lumina's outer defenses to reach what it perceived as a concentrated source of consciousness. As it entered the containment sector, Elena slammed the quantum field closed behind it, trapping the entity in a self-sustaining loop of resonance patterns that prevented it from escaping. The other entities, sensing the trap, retreated rapidly, disappearing from the system entirely. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Elena's consciousness remained merged with luminous systems, perceiving the universe in ways impossible for an unaugmented human mind. She could see the quantum underpinnings of reality, the delicate web of probability and causality that defined existence itself. Then, gradually, painfully, she felt herself being drawn back into the limitations of her physical form. She gasped as awareness of her body returned, finding herself slumped in the command chair with Dr. Morris and Lieutenant Chen hovering anxiously over her. "Captain, Elena, can you hear me?" Morris was scanning her with a medical tricorder, his face pale with concern. "I'm here," she managed, her voice raw. "The entities. The large one is contained," Chen confirmed. "The others fled. The coalition ships are reporting minimal damages and casualties." Elena tried to sit up, finding her movements awkward and unfamiliar after existing as part of Lumina's vast consciousness. "And Lumina, the ship systems are stabilizing," Chen replied. "But something's changed. The interfaces, they're responding to everyone now, not just humans." Elena nodded, unsurprised. During her merge with Lumina, she had made certain adjustments. "I removed the species restrictions. This ship, this technology, it doesn't belong exclusively to humanity. It never should have." The main view screen activated, showing the face of the Volari High Chancellor. His expression, as much as could be read in alien features, showed a mixture of awe and newfound respect. "Captain Reyes," he began formally, "the Coalition Council has observed your actions today. You placed yourself at considerable personal risk to protect all species present. This changes our perspective on the situation." Elena managed a tired smile. "Chancellor, Lumina contains the history and knowledge of an ancient human civilization, the progenitors. But they were not the only advanced species in their time. Their records show extensive cooperation with numerous non-human civilizations before the void entities forced them into hiding." She paused, gathering strength. "I believe Lumina was preserved not just to restart human technological development, but to prepare all sentient species for the return of this threat. The progenitors knew they couldn't defeat the void entities alone. Neither can we." The Chancellor was silent for a moment. "What are you proposing?" "A joint study and development initiative. Coalition scientists working alongside human researchers to understand Lumina's technology and prepare our defenses. The void entities retreated today, but they now know we're here. They'll return, and in greater numbers." In the days that followed, as Elena slowly adjusted to the permanent changes the nanite integration had caused, the first tentative steps toward true cooperation began. Coalition scientists arrived aboard Lumina, granted full access to its technological wonders under careful safety protocols. Elena herself retained a unique connection to the ship's systems, not the full immersion she had experienced during the battle, but a constant awareness, like a whisper in the back of her mind. Lumina's vast knowledge was accessible to her in ways it wasn't to others, a responsibility she accepted with solemn determination. 1 month after the discovery, Elena stood on Lumina's observation deck with Zhrek and Dr. Morris, watching as specialized coalition research vessels took up positions around the ancient ship. The initial fear and suspicion had given way to cautious optimism and scientific curiosity. The progenitors would have approved, Lumina's voice spoke in her mind. They always believed cooperation was the only path to survival. Elena nodded slightly, keeping the exchange private. We have a long way to go before we're ready to face the void entities again. Yes, Lumina agreed. But for the first time in 32,000 years, there is hope. The children of Earth have found their heritage, and they did not repeat the mistakes of isolation that weakened the progenitors in their final days. As Elena watched the coalition scientists working alongside her human crew, she felt a profound sense of responsibility mixed with possibility. An ancient human civilization had reached the stars and fallen. Their descendants, rediscovering their legacy, had a chance to build something stronger, not alone, but in partnership with the diverse species that now shared the galaxy. The lost starship had awakened, and with it, a new chapter in galactic history had begun.